Voices serves as the megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational change. By highlighting trials and triumphs, our desire is to create a safe space for pivotal conversations, which in turn will deepen the story and provoke hope for you, our listeners. As you may know, change is never easy, but it is inevitable. You are not alone in what you're facing. Your transformation is possible, purposeful, and now. And here's Aaron Wiggum, founder and managing director of New You, with this week's guest.
Welcome to another edition of New Voices. My name is Aaron Wiggum, and I am your host. I also serve as the managing director of New You, and New You is a way for individuals to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of themselves. Today, we have a wonderful guest, Chris Dancy, who is here with us. This man is the most connected man in the world. He is an amazing thought leader. He is a presenter. He is a fantastic orator. He has a wonderful story he's going to share with us today. And, you know, I had a great conversation with Chris a few months ago and just left so full of the wisdom and the nuggets that he dropped during that short, 30-minute, 40-minute conversation. So I'm highly anticipating today's conversation. You are in for a treat. Welcome to this platform, none other than Mr. Chris Dancy. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, Aaron. It's only called wisdom because you get to be old enough to remember some stuff.
Yeah. They call it TOE, which is time on earth, right?
Yeah. I got a lot of it. I was telling Lydia, is it Lydia?
Lydia, yes.
I love Lydia. I was telling Lydia.
Isn't she amazing?
I love her. Well, first, like her email reads differently than, because, I kind of cyclically read people's emails and imagine what they look like.
Uh-huh.
But I was telling her, I said, I don't look 55, but I am. People always go, you really know a lot. I'm like, no, I'm just old. Just don't confuse yourself like what I look like versus all that.
Yeah.
And we have a common friend, Jessica.
Yes. Yeah, Jessica Brooks. She is amazing. I just talked to her the other day. Absolutely amazing, doing some wonderful things. Just took over a really great position in Washington, D.C., and we're really excited for the work she's going to be leading there. And so shout outs to you, Jessica, for not only making this connection, but for the rock star that you are, right?
She is a rock star. I have to just say this, when I first transitioned out of the business world, we'll get to all this, but from like a real corporate job to being a full-time speaker, which, how do you just stop working and get paid to speak?
Yeah.
In 2014, the company she was with, she was one of the first people who ever hired me. And after I got off stage, people were like, "This is amazing," all this other kind of stuff. And I went up there and I just thanked her so much. And, if it hadn't been for her and her belief in me, 10 years ago, I'd probably still be doing what I'm doing, but I certainly wouldn't have had that kickoff. She was certainly a new voice that changed my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And she has done the same thing for me countless times in our relationship over the last 25 years or so. We've known each other, where she's opened doors not only and also gave that word of encouragement or wisdom or that swift kick in the butt, like, come on, man, you got to get it together, And so definitely cherish and treasure the value of Jessica Brooks. Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's get into your story. We always start with a simple question. Give us the Chris Dancy story. How does your story begin? And you can bring us however you would like to tell that.
The whole thing? No.
Yeah.
Well, goodness. I was born in 1968. That's how I like to start. I think years are important. People forget that years even happen anymore. It's like all happens at once.
Yeah.
I was born to mom and dad from upstate New York who had relocated to Maryland. We lived in a very, very segregated community in Baltimore City. By the early 1970s, there were a lot of just challenges. You just look at the time frame. And I grew up being raised by a Black nanny named Miss Helen. And it was weird because none of my other friends had nannies. And I don't even, to this day, I don't know if people have nannies. They were like au pairs from Europe or something. Yeah. But Miss Helen just raised me different because I thought different. And I had a lot of problems as a kid. Like I'm autistic, so I struggle with sounds and lights. And I would have all sorts of physical problems and tics and things. And Miss Helen was, she was just like that movie where she would tell I can't remember the name of the movie, but she's, you're good and you're smart. Miss Helen, I literally had a woman like that raise me, and it just changed my life. And it was weird. My parents would come home, and I don't know. It was like I wanted the version of the Miss Helen family I had.
Yeah.
Fast forward now to high school. Miss Helen's out of my life. I now have my driver's license. I'll still go down and visit her and things. But I just became really interested in treating other people like Miss Helen treated me. And even as a teenager, I lied. At 14, I lied about my age, said I was 16 and got a job in the early 80s at a medical clinic. I didn't know anything about medicine, but I said I was 16 and my father was a doctor. Completely lied. And I would go in back and it would Tandy, TRCDs, I'd back them up and things like that.
Yeah.
Right into college. Again, my parents didn't have money for school, so I took out a bunch of loans, all sorts of crazy stuff. And then one thing led to another, and my parents were spending my money that I was given for school. So I literally got escorted out of school because they hadn't been paying the bills. It was so terrifying. And I don't want to say my parents are bad people. They were doing whatever they had to do, I guess. Yeah. They weren't me. I know that somehow I came out different. And then, Aaron, things just got rough. From the early 90s, I came out as gay, and I came out in 88, but it wasn't a time my first lover had HIV, died in bed next to me. Like I woke up and he'd passed away. It was just a lot of drama. Again, take a lot of problems and add a lot of problems. And then by the late 90s, I'm not gonna lie, I was just drinking, and I was on antidepressants since 1987. So a lot of challenges, but somehow through my entire life, through the drinking and alcohol and rehabs and jails and all the problems, I was super successful. I'm not gonna lie. Usually you don't get both. You're just either a mess up or you're super successful. I was somehow both.
Yeah.
But it was just tearing me apart. But I was this really, really outwardly good person, but I would just go and just try to drown it all. Yeah. Fast forward to 2008, and I was at my computer one day, and I said to myself, I was trying to find something I'd seen on the internet, and I looked at my internet history, which I rarely did at that point. Looking at internet history was something that was still new to a lot of people by then. And I saw like all the things the last 2 days I'd searched for, and I thought, my computer knows I'm a mess. And it just dawned on me like how much my computer knew about me. And it kind of blew my mind. So I cleared my browser right away. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to go do this. Like it's too much crazy, all sorts of things on there. And then it dawned on me, what happens if I wrote a program that sat on my computer, and anytime I did anything from internet searches to sending an email, it wrote down what I did. And it was this really simple little concept that kind of like, I call it Big Mother, not Big Brother. It just watched me, and I stored it all in my calendar, a Google Calendar. So I had a Google Calendar with thousands of data slots in it. And then about 2 years into it, I just started having it look for patterns and color coding patterns. And then I'd have it send me an email or a push message on my phone when I was about to do something bad. So from 2008 to 2012, I took all that computer knowledge, and I worked for WebMD and a bunch of other big companies, and said, I'm going to build something just for myself. And by 2012, I was talking back to me from the computer. Like it was seeing these patterns in my life, kind of like what people do today with ChatGPT. So I just said, hey, I need to, never drink again. I need to get off antidepressants for the past 20 years. I need to get my life right with God and all these other things. And by 2014, I'd lost 100 pounds, quit smoking, had come off of 25 years of antidepressants and benzodiazepines, was just making money I was always really successful with making money hand over fist, just become a completely different person, all through this kind of just symbiotic relationship I created with my computer. And then, here it is 10 years later. And I'd be honest with you now, I just, people are like, well, what do you do for a living now? I mean, I do a lot of interesting things, but I don't work anymore. I got a book deal and a TV deal and all that other kind of stuff, but I became famous before everybody was, because now everybody's famous. But I also got famous too late. Like if I'd gotten famous 10 years before, I'd be a household name. But there's this period of time between 2010 and 2015 where you could be just famous enough not to work, but you could also like mess up and you weren't canceled because your fame came late. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's weird. People don't talk about fame that way. And now it's just like, I spend a lot of time helping out, I'll be honest with you, marginalized communities. I build a lot of systems today using low code, no code, or AI to just kind of do for them what technology did for me.
Yeah.
If I could sum up my life in like one phrase, it's just the saying I say all the time. It's the biggest problem I had was I didn't know how to measure what I cared about, so I cared about what I measured. And my entire life was measured by my bank account, or how many drinks I had, or how many friends I had, or how many social media posts I had done that were successful. And until I actually could create my own version of what was important, my life didn't become important.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Total sense. So you said a lot. I told you all you are in for a treat today. You just said
it's a roller coaster, and there's a million roller coasters in that roller coaster.
Yes, yeah, I know, and that's where I'm about to go into. So you're saying you're born in 1968.
Yeah.
In Maryland, and that's, of course, that's right around the heart of the civil rights movement, right?
Dead in the middle of it.
Yeah, and so and you have this Black nanny, Miss Helen, who's taking care of you. Can you talk a little bit about, the dichotomy of what was going on?
Having a racist father and a Black nanny?
Oh, there you go. Let's talk about that. Yeah.
You want to go there?
Sure.
It was weird. I mean, again, I only can speak from my experience. I have no idea what it would be like to be another color, another gender. I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
But I do know you don't know what your parents are until you meet other parents. And then it's not completely obvious. So I didn't know my father was, so much of a racist as he ended up being. Again, when you're in elementary school, some things just aren't obvious.
Right.
And obviously having Miss Helen raise us wasn't, it's like, okay, well, but there were some violent things. I mean, because it was the middle of the civil rights movement, there were a lot of civil unrest, and the store that they owned was always getting held up. So people breaking and things like that. So they're always coming in, threatening whoever was working, guns, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. My father would literally kill people. It's like not even people are just like, no. I'm like, no, literally, he'd shoot and kill people because they were being held up, and he'd say that he was defending himself. And again, I was a child. I had no idea. Yeah. But I do know that from 7 or 8 to maybe 14 or 15, Miss Helen would take us to the store whenever there was a shooting, and my brother and I would have to mop up the blood. I mean, literally right out of a horror movie, right?
Wow.
And now I look back and I see the outrageous amounts of trauma that I was put through. And Miss Helen, right? And remember, Miss Helen's carting us down there, and there's dead people on the floor, right?
Right.
And this is before we talked about gun violence, right? But my parents and that point in our life, there was always justification. And the other thing I learned back then was the police were, I don't want to say in on it, but they knew my dad.
Yeah.
So like it didn't matter if he said that, somebody shot first, it's everything you could think about that you worry about and you hear in the news that's wrong with the system. I saw it. Yeah. Saw it firsthand before we talked about it, before it was news, any of it. And that informed me, because the first thing I did, Aaron, when I became old enough to like have friends like of my own, they were all Black. The first thing I did when I could have a girlfriend, Black girlfriend. Right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No,
Let's talk about her too.
Andrea Mack, God bless her. I know she's still alive somewhere out there. Andrea Mack changed my life, because when I would visit Andrea's house, her family treated me again like Miss Helen. And it's weird because as a 55-year-old adult, my entire concept of what's important around family didn't come from my family. It came from Black families that I was raised with. And I've told Jessica this a million times. Yeah. Everything from the culture of food and nurturing and of just calling things out, like, and whoopings. I got whoopings, but not like,
I know. Listen, I know you're raised by a Black woman. If you're saying whoopings, like that's.
I got beat by my dad, but whoopings are different. Whoopings come with some emotions. Where beatings are just physical. So no, my father beat me. Miss Helen will whoop me.
Right.
So, but it taught me, and I'm not advocating don't hit your kids or anything.
No.
Different time. But I do know as I aged and watched my father grow old, my age and older, and watched him become frail, watch him become more sensitive. Watching the world humble him was life altering for me, because you took someone who was just horrible, always mean and threatening, and and saying the most vile things, and under the cover of protection of community and institutions and things. And then watching his life, and first him having to deal with me, right? Because it's almost like, if God had retribution on my father, it was given me as a kid, because like everything he hated, I ended up becoming gay, black girlfriends, all of it. But watching life temper him, I don't know. It made me so glad that I made the decisions I did, because I don't know how to say this, but I'm not afraid of getting old, and I'm not afraid of becoming frail and weak, because my strength comes from inside. My strength is how I treat others. My strength is what I leave on the world. I mean, I'm all about the dash, not on a gravestone, not the birth, not the death.
That's
It's like,
that's it.
and that's power. And people always say, you're so confident, you're so this, and I'm like, no, I'm fearless. There's a difference.
Right.
I do it anyway. I'm scared to death. I just do it anyway.
Yeah. We have a saying in New You: do it scared.
Do it scared.
Do it scared.
I'm never not scared.
Yeah.
Never not scared. Even when I've got all the kind of good feelings and I know it's the right thing, I'm still scared, because at the end of the day, the worst that can happen is not me, hurting something or something going wrong. That happens all the time. It's just me not leaving someone unchanged for the better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that's just so important to who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Which would you feel like was more difficult to share with your parents, that you were dating a black girl, or that you are, you're a gay man?
It was a different time. I mean,
Yeah.
I was 13 when I started dating Andrea, and I didn't share it. He found out from the local police, right, who were literally his eyes and ears in the town we lived in.
Yeah.
And then how that ended was, once he found out, he didn't question me. He just put me in the car and took me to Andrea's house, knocked on her door. She came to the door. He asked for her parents. Her parents came to the door with her. And then he beat me in front of her. Didn't say anything to her, just beat me in front of her and said, next time I see you with my son, he's going to be beat again. And he'll be beat till he can't walk if you continue to see him. So that was just a level of just horrificness that, he wasn't going to say anything to her, but he knew hurting me in front of her would hurt her more.
Would hurt her, right. Yeah.
And then to me, it's just a level of depravity in his condition that I didn't understand until that point. Gay was, again, I didn't tell him that either. I was 18 and I got stuck in Baltimore City at the bar, and I didn't know who else to call, so I called my dad, and going home, and he just said, I didn't think it'd get much worse or something like that. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you're going to kill your mother. You're going to kill your mother. And I thought he was going to beat me, because he'd always beat me, but he did not beat me. He didn't talk to me for like 3 or 4 months. And I don't know. It's like within 6 months, it was hard. It was weird, because it's not like I was close to my dad, but having him just like cold shut me out, Yeah. But again, I think if all his friends were, I'll just call it clan adjacent, I have no idea. Like I didn't see robes. It's not like a movie. Like I just know what it felt like, especially looking back now and knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
Man, did I mess up his life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not make it easy for him. And it's like, I think about that all the time, because when he finally did die, I was with him the day he died, and I'd spent the last few days down with him, and he was a very frail man. I'd spent time reading letters from my mother to him and things like that. And I just remember he was just so scared. And, I'll just be honest. I just let him be scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's not me. He has to deal with that.
Yeah, that's his cross to bear. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's talk about
Is that too much? Is this too much? Is this too much?
This is perfect. Okay. This is perfect. This is exactly what we're here for. Because what you're talking about is having to endure. I mean, that's real trauma to see this level of 2 different parables at the same time. You have this black woman that's caring for me, and then you have this father who's killing me.
And he loved Miss Helen. He would say to her all the time.
Yeah.
you know. But again, I think there's something intrinsically broken in people who have, for lack of a better term, like identificationology. Like you're a
Yes.
single mom, you're
Yeah.
black, you're
Right.
college educated, whatever that is.
Hmm.
There's something that's really inherently broken that they somehow can make a person identity and still think they can love them. Love doesn't have any identity, you
Right.
know. Uh,
Right.
it, even
It
Hallmark,
shouldn't. It
even
shouldn't have.
Hallmark has a.
Yeah.
You go and look, try to buy a card at the
Yeah.
store. It's like, yeah, okay, there's sympathy and Valentine's, but even they struggle with it. You know what
Yes,
I mean?
they do.
Hallmark
Yeah.
can't do it. You can't do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. To compartmentalize the love in that way.
It's so
So,
weird.
so when you're talking about, let's talk a little bit about the success. So you're on this climb, right? And you're just kind of like figuring out through life as it's coming to you, or did you have this charted path that was like, I knew this would take me here and this would take me here, and you just kind of followed the lily pads of life? Which way did how did it kind of unfold for you?
All
This
right, so I give you. So meeting Michael Jackson was a big part
okay.
of
Oh,
my
let's
story.
talk about this. This is good.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay. So, so my mother, God rest her soul, but was a heavy chain smoker, swore like a sailor. Christopher.
Hmm.
My mother would always say, Christopher, you have a horseshoe up your ass, right? And
What does
it,
that mean, by the way?
exactly. And her thing was, no matter what happened, I was lucky,
Oh,
right?
okay. Okay. Yeah.
I have a horseshoe up my ass. I was always lucky. Like,
Yeah.
stuff would hit the fan, I'd still be lucky.
Yeah.
Getting that job at 14, was lucky.
Yeah.
But at 13, right as Thriller was blowing up, I had a huge Michael Jackson collection. By 1988, I was flying around the world with Michael. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But I had a huge collection because I'd been delivering papers on a motorcycle. I wasn't old enough to drive. I got at 12
Mhm.
from delivering papers on a bicycle.
Mhm.
But I was always like anything to get out of that house and make myself, away from the crazy. Like
Yeah.
to me, money was power and freedom and a little bit of getting away from that. But I amassed this huge collection, and my mother took pictures of it and wrote to Michael Jackson. Never heard back, but then
Mhm.
wrote to Michael Jackson's manager secretary, who
Mhm.
she found out who it was by getting a phone book from LA. My mother was resourceful. She was like Miss
Mhm.
Helen, but like her and Miss Helen would conspire. But and then the letter got to the secretary. The secretary gave it to Michael. Michael wrote back to me, sent me tickets to the Victory Tour for DC. We were at
Mhm.
RFK Stadium, and then a tour program and a letter. She's like, hey, let's keep in touch.
Mhm.
So fast forward now to 4 years later, Bad album comes out, and I send a letter out to office, get a phone call back. Michael's team. Michael loved to see you at the Grammys. He was doing a Grammys at New York, and then 4 nights at Madison Square Garden, one of them being a private Pepsi concert. Went out, got to see
Oh my
that.
God.
Absolutely incredible.
Wait, wait,
Tokyo.
wait, wait, Chris. Wait, Chris. Go back and say that again. Slow. Wait, wait, wait. You're saying this stuff like this is just I
I
walk down the
know.
street with my
Wait,
dog. Like what?
but see, this is the crazy thing about my life, and it's all in my book. It's this crazy thing about my life. It's just like I just was lucky,
Yeah.
Michael's was like, come on up, let's go to the Grammys, and I thank you for the book. No, it's okay. I
Yeah.
know how important this is to you, and you know, Michael Jackson had an effect on my life that, like, again, I could write a whole book on the magic of Michael Jackson, just
Right.
because to me, he was everything that I wanted out of a post-racial world, right?
Mm.
He was
Mm.
post-gender before there was a gender conversation. He was
Right.
post-race before there was a
Right.
race conversation.
Right.
He was, beyond fame, beyond attention.
Yeah.
So, having that kind of pen pal relationship with him early, and then getting to see him in New York, and then going to Tokyo for the Bad Kickoff,
Mhm.
and then again, the last time I had any communication with him was right before the Dangerous album, and I got a letter and a note from Neverland saying you need to come out.
Mm.
But the idea of Michael Jackson and hanging out with kids and his relationship with young people, it's been going on forever. I mean, he
Mhm.
was a kid, right? So,
Right.
it's funny because, now with all of, the drama surrounding even his name sometimes,
Right.
which again is just, you know, algorithmic lynching, just
Mhm.
call it what it is. I mean,
Mhm.
back then they hated, I'm getting pissed off. Sorry, I had to look at my arm because I'm getting
Yeah. I
angry.
know.
They hated Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Everyone hated. Yes,
Yeah.
he was super popular, but the people in power hated the power he had.
The power
Right?
that he had. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
wielded some power.
Yeah.
So, you know, Did I call Michael and were we friends? No, but did I get to visit a few times and did he fly me around places? Yeah. I mean, it was not, but it was kind of not a big deal. I
Yeah.
mean, and I'll share a video with you and put it in your show notes or something. Now,
Okay.
I literally have one of the biggest collections on earth. I had stuff from all over the world that I'd gotten, he'd sent, and ended up selling it to someone. A Russian oligarch flew over in '92 and bought it from me, and I don't know where the collection is. I have like the important things he gave me. The first letter I
Right.
ever got from him,
Right.
some books and things he'd given me. I still have them upstairs. 2 gloves, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you
So,
talked about struggles and things. I guess all that to say is, yes, I had a lot of struggles, like the
yeah.
parents and all the other things. But like life has just always been really kind to me.
Mm.
It's
So
like for as horrible as it's been, life has always said, "Here's an olive branch."
mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah, just speaking to the magnitude though, real quick, of Michael Jackson, you said four straight nights in Madison Square Garden sold out. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, so he did the Grammys the first night. That's where he did Man in the Mirror.
Mhm.
Then the next night, there was a private Pepsi show. So that was the
Mhm.
first night at Madison Square Garden. And then he did 3 more nights after that. I was staying at the Penta Hotel at that time. But, again, if you're not old enough to remember the 80s Michael Jackson, it was bigger than life. I mean,
Yes,
Michael,
pandemonium.
Michael Jackson literally would put out a video and like TV shows would shut down. I mean,
Right,
The Simpsons episode was for black or white. Thriller
right.
shut down TV. I mean, the Bad video was a whole premiere. I mean, I wish people understood how much the world should miss Michael Jackson.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Because it's funny because and this isn't to get on a rabbit hole in this, but a lot of people, a lot of millennials and younger people try to compare the fame and celebrity of individuals today to what Michael Jackson was in that day. And I'm like, you're taking away if you take away social media, which there wasn't at that time, and he had even more fame without social
And he
media.
was black.
And yeah, yeah, it's like he was
Okay.
on a whole nother level.
And again, to your point, I mean, I see this young, and funny story. So I'm working with the ELLA Foundation. I've been in contact with them. I was just out at Michael's house for the Halloween party for Thriller 40.
Mhm.
And, but it's funny because now I'm like, can I help you guys out with some project? I'll hear that in a second. What people don't understand about like comparing Michael Jackson to anyone today is, today, we live in a different world. But back then, it really was not just the kind of racism was everywhere. It was in your damn face.
Yes, yes, right here.
Different.
Yeah,
You know, someone filming you dropping the N-word now and like being
Mhm.
canceled for it, that's cute. It happened all the time.
Yes. Yeah,
And not only did they call you, they pull out a gun and they'd probably actually try to shoot you.
right.
So I'm not saying like one racism is harder than the other, but I'm like, it was a different world. And Michael Jackson succeeded in that one.
That world, yes.
That
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
And he
Yeah.
did it, and he talked about climate and, and
Mhm.
the
Heal the
things.
world, yeah. It was
The
all
bad
messages of
video,
love.
the bad video is about a young boy who went to school
Mhm.
from Harlem, who was then killed for trying to for escape gun violence.
Mhm.
People forget that. They just remember the life there's some state, but there's a whole movie before the bad video. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
sorry, I could go
Yeah.
on and on. I could do a whole show on the magic and exploration of Michael Jackson because he changed my damn life.
Wow, wow. So you're on this climb, and you talked a
Yeah.
little about working at WebMD and some. So let's go through some of your
Greatest hits.
success points.
Oh my goodness. So again, couldn't finish school because my parents were spending the damn money.
Mhm.
But I was still teaching myself computers and doing all this computer stuff. So I started doing more medical computer stuff in the early '90s.
Yeah.
Got a job at a software company that ended up becoming the main engine behind WebMD. So we ended up changing our name to WebMD. I was employee 3. They're running their entire service division.
Mhm.
That gets me to the late '90s, early 2000s. We went public. I thought, $200,000 was more money than I would never have to work again. What no one tells you about $200,000 when you're in your late 20s is it'll go damn fast.
Yes, it goes real quick. Yeah.
It ain't that much money. I should have bought a house or done something smart, but it's like you have a lot of good nights out with friends on $200,000. But so I got a job working at a database company that basically sold service and support software called Goldmine, but then it became Front Range. And I'm like everyone from the Waffle House to the White House, I put their systems in from '98 until 2003. I was at the Pentagon. I'm not the Pentagon. I was at the FAA on 9/11 when
Mm,
when they literally had to bring down the fleet. Just
mhm,
wild circumstances where I just moved in kind of circles of very affluent people. By the
mhm.
middle 2000s, I was working for another big company that was flying me around the world to kind of do these big installations. Again, I could name drop with all the kind of impressive companies where you probably go there and I
Mhm.
built their systems. But I was drunk, right? So
Mm.
the thing was, I could do my job during the day, but at night I would just use drugs and drink and just do
Yeah.
anything. I was
Yeah.
320 pounds. Life
Mm.
was a hot mess,
Yeah.
but it was weird. If you're really good at something, the world will prop you up to your
Yes.
demise.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
tell people this all the time: be careful what you're good at because the world will try to kill you for it.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter how good you become, the world will kill you for it even more. Because if you're
Mhm.
good at something, they want to make sure you keep doing it. And if you're
Right.
bad at something and they enjoy it, they want to watch it even more.
Yes.
So, you can be good at making some money. They'll make sure you can make money, but they love watching the show. I call it the show. There are people
Right.
who love to see me be successful during the day and be a hot mess at night,
Right.
because they live for the show, because it's the
Right.
drama.
Right.
Far too many of us are TV for people who don't care about us and just want to watch us fall.
Mm.
So, that was a big lesson too. When I was watching my own dad, I was like, I'm turning this show off.
Yeah.
I get that people like the show, but this ain't my show. It's their
Yes.
show. But
Yes.
back to this. So I was flying around doing that. And by the late 2000s, when I turned, 40 and I was, 300 pounds, I was falling apart and I built the system. It just got to this point where it's just like, I've got to find some way to find me. Intrinsically, I'm good, but I've got to figure all of that out. And then worked for another big SaaS company called ServiceNow, worked
Mhm.
for another big software company called BMC. And then boom, I was at a conference. Someone saw my laptop just filling stuff. And it's, how's your laptop writing all by itself? And I said, oh, I have a sensor. And I stood up and it said, write. And he was a writer
Mm.
from Wired Magazine. And the rest is history. Wired Magazine story the next day, a TV show or a first interview on TV, and then the cover of Business Week in 2014, first TED Talk in 2014, 5 TED Talks now about me. It's like I don't even
Mm.
do them anymore. People do them about me. And
Wow.
then I don't know. It's like one thing after another. Then the book deal in 15, um, first TV show in 16, Darknet.
Yeah.
Then the book came out in 17, second TV show in 18, optioned the book for a movie in 19, got married in 18, so I've been single my whole life.
Mm.
Um, Pandemic. Uh, the first thing I did in pandemic in 2020 was I built a system to unify my neighborhood. It was a bunch of old people, and I was
Mm.
afraid they wouldn't be able to get groceries and things like that.
Right.
Second thing in the pandemic was I built a system for Black speakers. So Black speakers needed to get paid. I'm really good at getting paid. So
Mm.
I built this thing called Black Speakers. And I don't know, it's like as soon as the pandemic came and I could take some time off of being famous, I don't mean that like in a
I know what you
selfish,
mean. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like I don't, no one's having events. I
Right.
got to say, okay, now, like, could I write these little mini systems to change other people's lives? And
Mhm.
I don't know. And then the last thing I built was something called the Advocator, which is this really cool little system that uh, basically you can take any kind of social injustice that you're dealing with,
Mhm.
and it will go ahead and write on your behalf a letter. So
Mhm.
basically, this is it. It's called the Advocator, Amplify Your Voice, Automate Your Impact. And what it does is, depending on your social issue, a health issue, or a support issue, so you could have a social issue, everything from Black lives to trans lives, health issues, everything from COVID to HIV, support issues, everything from neurodiversity to ADHD. And what it does is it walks you through this little uh, questionnaire, and then it uses the laws and systems closest to you,
Mhm.
writes a letter to anyone you want to advocate on your behalf.
Nice.
Because a lot of
Wow.
times people don't have, I guess, the legal language
Yeah, the
to,
language to yeah. Yep.
yeah. And I noticed that if I could use AI in a way to amplify people's, I didn't want to automate. That's the other thing. A lot of people are like, we'll build a bot that just spams Congress. They know that.
Right. Yeah.
But what I
Yeah.
like about AI is, and what I did with mine was like, you can take your voice, your story,
Your tone. Mhm.
your tone,
Yeah.
marry it with some legal,
Mhm.
and make it something that hits hard.
That's
You know?
powerful. Give us the name of that again. The Advocator.
Yeah, yeah. The site is just advocator.ai.
Ad
But
okay.
I see a lot of people now, especially in the kind of the disruption scene. They're doing all this AI stuff. I'm like, people building the stupidest stuff. You
Yeah.
know, when we got actual problems out there, you
Right.
know, that
Yeah.
we could use an AI to help, right?
Hmm.
Communities. I tell Jessica Brooks all the time, she needs to build a damn black army,
Yeah.
right? She
Yeah.
needs to go. She's got a church she goes to, hundreds and hundreds of young people. I
Hmm.
said, let me come down there and do a half a day class.
Yeah.
I will train every single one of them people to build something that will change their community and their lives.
Yeah.
Why we are not doing this is beyond me, or acting like it's a secret or hard.
Yeah.
It's stuff's just easy. Sorry, I could ramble about this stuff all day long.
No, this is good, man. This is really good. So I just got a couple more questions.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing I want to get into is, so you're on this weight loss journey,
Yeah,
and you dropped this 100 pounds.
yeah.
What did it take? Talk about what it took.
And quit smoking.
And Chris, well, yeah. So all of these pivotal changes, right? What? Just talk about what it took to actually accomplish that. What did it
You know,
actually take
I
from
hate
you
to,
as a
yeah,
from your
I hate to
soul?
say, I hate to say it. So I'm gonna start with the cost.
Okay.
Because everyone's like, I don't want what you did, Christine. So let's talk about the cost first. So
Okay.
what no one tells you about losing weight or quitting smoking or getting a better job or fixing any of your life problems is
Mhm.
it's not your life anymore.
That's
If
good.
you've had a problem for long enough, that's your life. And the
Yes.
minute you lose the weight, change the spouse, get the better job, get your
Yeah.
teeth fixed, get the muffler replaced, that's not your life.
Yeah.
Some of your friends don't know you're driving up to the house because the muffler ain't making noise.
Right.
And no one tells you the price of admission. They just tell you how good the movie was.
That's
Right.
right. Yeah.
And for me, I don't know. And I've spent the last 5 years trying to actually get a little bit of a refund back on some of the life changes I made,
Mhm.
because it's hard not knowing who you are.
Mm.
Ask anyone who's lost a lot of weight. And if they're honest with you, they'll tell you the hardest part wasn't losing the weight. It was not knowing their body.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you put jeans on, you don't believe it's you. It's
Mhm.
called dysmorphia. No, it's serious. I still have to look at other people's genes and go, wait, am I a 32? Because
Right.
there's no way. That's a 32. It's like
Right.
this latest picture of the president. You're saying he's 6'3", 215. I'm like,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
no.
No.
But that's the cost. But to get there though, you have to be willing to do two things. The first thing is make yourself a number, which stinks. So
Mhm.
if it's money you're worried about, then what's your number? What do
Mhm.
you got to earn a year? Or what do what do you got to stop spending a month? If it's weight, what's your number? What's your
Mhm.
BMI? If it's health, what's your blood sugar? What's your heart rate? What's your blood
Mhm.
pressure? If it's, if it's family, it's how
Mhm.
many hours you're spending with your kids. What's your number? I hate to say it, but you got to figure out the number.
Mhm.
After your number, you're going to have to go and apologize to a bunch of people before you get to
Mhm.
step two and say, I have to be a number for a bit, which means I can't be dad, I can't be your friend, I can't be your
Mhm.
drinking buddy.
Mhm.
But once you commit to saying, okay, I am the number now, the rest of it is not counting the number, but just doing it. I always say, you don't get better by counting steps, you get better by taking them.
Right.
Doing the number is different than counting the number. Once you know the number, okay, I'm gonna lose 100 pounds. That's kind of okay. But doing it's hard because it's
Yeah.
just million small little things you have to do.
Right.
So first step is become a number. Second one is just do the number. And that sounds relatively simple, but
Yeah. It's
you get it,
difficult.
you know it,
Yeah.
because the minute you don't recognize yourself, you're doing the
Mhm.
number.
Yeah.
But every day you're doing the number, you're not doing it. Because
Yeah.
when you do the number, you don't know. You got to lose
Wow.
yourself.
That's it. That's it. That's good.
So identity loss, that's kind of the key to all ills in your life.
So what I'm
Whatever
hearing
you
is,
think is wrong, you've got to lose you.
yeah, lose you to find yourself. Yeah.
And it's true because people don't understand how fundamental it is to habit change, losing who you think you are.
Mhm.
Because even my friends, when I'd go out drinking or I'd have 10 pack of White Castles on a picture on Facebook in 2010,
Mhm.
everybody would be like, I love White Castles.
Yeah.
But the minute I started posting salads, no one came around.
Nobody. Yeah. Silence.
Because
Yeah.
people want the show.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Most of the people in your life want the show. They don't want you.
Yeah.
And if someone really wants you, they're probably not in your life if your values don't align.
Mm.
And my mama used to say, Miss Helen used to say at the time, Christopher, you'll only ever be as good as the 5 people you
Mm.
the most.
Yeah.
So it's like the sum of the five. You only be as successful as the most successful person you know. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and I just had to lose myself, so it didn't matter who I knew. I could
Yeah.
become them. Sorry.
No, you're good. So two more questions. One, I want to know, can you take us through a point where you didn't know what to do next? Like it could have been the loss of your friend to HIV. It could have been any myriad of things. Talk about a period where you just didn't know what to do next, and how did you muster through that?
Can I talk about woo?
Okay, who's this?
Woo, like spirituality.
Oh yes, yeah.
So I wasn't raised very spiritual, man. Anytime I got to a point where I didn't know what to do next, woo happened.
Mm,
God, Jesus, whatever you
yeah,
want to call it.
yeah.
When my lover passed away in 1993, I went outside because the police were there, and he's like dead in bed. And I woke up, he's already dead, and like I'm
Mhm,
losing my mind. And my dog's out there. Dog runs out in the street. Dog gets hit by a car. My lover just died. And suddenly I walk back inside. I didn't even want to see the dead dog, and the landlord comes, you got to get Buster. You got to get Buster. I said, what do you mean he's dead? And he goes, no, he's right here on stage, right?
mm,
Same day, father and mother hear that my lover had passed away. They show up after not talking because they didn't want to talk to me. Not only was I gay, but I was dating someone with HIV positive.
mm,
So it's like every time I truly hit that kind of, there's nothing left,
mhm.
jail,
Yeah.
right? Ends up that the person who's doing the checkout at the jail is my best friend from high school's mother. It was
Mm,
like there's been all these kind of major. My mother dies, right?
yeah.
So I literally like flying down to see her. I'm at the airport, early 2000s. Phone rings. She'd actually just passed away. She wasn't the test. She didn't even go to the test. She had a massive heart attack. I losing my mind. I walk into a gift store to get a stuffed animal for my brother's kid,
Mhm,
and it was a Beanie Baby, and the Beanie Baby's name was Dancy, which is my last name, and had my mother's birthday. So
mm,
like there have always been these outrageous spiritually synchronistic events,
mhm,
and I don't know if I'm just open to them but something always reaches down and saves me. It's
mm,
different than luck. When
yeah,
like I was just lucky and like bad things
yeah.
would happen, I'd be
That's
lucky.
serendipity.
This is like
Yeah.
an intervening hand of God. And I don't want to like upset anyone if you don't like God or you don't like whatever. But if I had to say, what did you do when you didn't know what to do? I
Yeah.
didn't have to do anything. I was
Mm,
always, always, always taken care of.
wow.
I wish I could say I had some magic. And I think the more I believed that, the more it happened more.
Mhm.
They call it faith for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, wow,
Yeah.
that's good, man. And you know what? I agree with you 100%. I mean, anytime, anything that's been monumental in my life, whether it was something that was good or something that was devastating, I agree with you 100% that I, when, I have a I believe in a firm statement that man's extremity is God's opportunity. And
Mm.
so when I'm at my very wit's end, it's like that's when God is ever present, and you get to see the difference between my inability and what He's fully capable of doing in and through me. And so that's I love how you shared that.
There's a
All right.
quote I love. It's the place God calls you to is where your deepest gladness and the world's deepest hunger meet.
Hmm. Say that
Uh,
again for us.
yeah. The place God calls you to is where your deepest gladness and the world's deepest hunger meet.
Wow.
And when I think back about my life, the thing that truly makes me happy is just the resilient feeling of, I must swear,
Mhm,
but because I don't know, I just feel like I have to say it this way.
mhm.
I don't care how bad it is, I'm gonna fuck up a bad system.
Okay.
I'm gonna fuck up a bad system. Because
Okay.
I tell Jessica all the time, the only thing that beats a bad system is a better one.
Yeah. True.
It doesn't
True.
matter what it is, racism to poverty. The only
Mhm.
thing that beat a bad system is a better one. And man, do I make good systems.
Yeah. Wow, this is good, man. I tell you what, let's close with a call to action. What's some action steps you would leave for our listeners? And then how can they best follow you, contact you, or
Well, first, don't, because I don't do social media very well.
Okay, there you
I got
go.
a little following here and there, but it's just ranty. You get to be my age, you don't care about, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So first thing is you don't have to find me. If you do want to chat, my phone number literally is on my website. My husband will tell you I get phone calls from people all the time I don't know, and not bill collectors, just people just say, hey, I heard you on this show, or I read your book, or just I heard about you. And first things first, if you need anything, you can literally call me up, because I want you to know, if you're listening to this right now, I've probably been where you are, or I probably know someone, and I will listen and I will do what I can. Because at the end of the day, everyone either needs a connection, someone to talk to, or some resource help. Uh, Second thing is, people today need to really consider what they value, and that word gets tossed around a lot. But for me, really deciding what my values were. So they're health, home, family, work, finances, and service. And then taking those 6 values and saying, well, what does that mean? Well, it means that I don't do these things. I do these things. I literally have them written down. I mean, I'm my spouse and I, my friends, I even have a terms of service like software I give to my actual friends, make them sign it. Uh, and just stick to it. The one thing I was told that I did not believe for the longest time is your people are out there. And, you know, it sounds hard because you're like, oh, so many people say, hey, don't have friends. And, but your people are out there. You just need to be very discriminating. The right people will come to you. And if you don't got friends, or you don't have a relationship, a lot of people are like, I need a relationship, I need a partner, I need more friends. You have to do the work. You cannot make friends by following people on social media. Friends take work. You have to show up. You cannot be friends or have a relationship with a spouse by texting them. It takes voices. Relationships take all your senses: sight, voice, touch, smell. There's a reason sex smells, right? So if you're missing people from your life, you are not using all your senses. God gave you senses, right? And I wonder how many people, if they just were to use something more than their brain and their fingers, would find so much love. You got to do the work for relationships. I guess that's my biggest message. You got to be involved in people's lives. And I know it's hard. They might turn their back on you, but get it out of the way sooner. You will pay the toll either way. Just get it out of the way. Sorry, I could go on about this.
No, that's good. That's good, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate this time we've shared, man. You've dropped some real gems in here. And give us the book one more time, the book title.
If it's even still out, I don't know. If not, I'll send it to you. It's called Don't Unplug: How Technology Saved My Life and Can Save Yours Too. PDF, I read it on Audible, so you get to listen to me rant and talk about Michael Jackson for 8 hours on Audible. It's good, but don't buy the book. Just take that money and give it to a stranger and listen to this show twice.
Okay. Really appreciate you, Chris. We'll definitely be in touch, and this has been a wonderful gift and time well spent. So thank you so much for that. For all of our listeners, we appreciate you. Follow us on social media: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook,
all of it.
And we will, as at New You Tulsa, we want to make sure that we are able to connect with you. Also at New Voices, we have those on those platforms. We're really excited to hear stories from you of how today's session has been encouraging to you. All right, so thanks so much. Thanks for listening. God bless.
Thank you for listening to this episode of New Voices. Visit our website at www.newutulsa.com. That is NEWU Tulsa.com. Follow us on social media at New You Tulsa on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And a special thank you to our producer, Jesse Ulrich. If you're looking for self-improvement, join our free cohorts for personal and professional development opportunities. New You is a way for diverse talent to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. Bring your future into focus.